May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and here at GCC, we decided to create some videos around the topic of mental health awareness so that we can grow in awareness and empathy together. Today's topic is mental health stigmas in Christian communities. The first stigma we want to talk about is this idea that mental health disorders are in some way a sign of weak faith. This is the idea that if someone is struggling with anxiety or depression or something like that, that simply studying their Bible more or praying more or growing in their faith in some way would make that go away. This is a misconception. We don't believe this about physical ailments, so why would we believe it about mental ailments? Now, of course, we believe that God can and does heal people, but we also understand that sometimes God chooses not to heal us and that our ultimate healing is in heaven. And so we have to be careful to not let ourselves slip into this misconception. It's helpful to remind ourselves of Paul's words in 2 Corinthians 12:9, where Paul talks about an ailment that he calls a thorn in his flesh, and he says that God told him that his grace is sufficient for him and that his power is made perfect in weakness. Now, we don't know what Paul's ailment was, but how much more helpful is it for us to say to someone, God sees you, God cares about you, God knows you, and you're going to make it through this, the same way we would if someone was struggling with some type of physical ailment. The second stigma is this idea that Christians shouldn't seek mental health counseling. Again, this is simply not true. Proverb 12:15 says, "The way of the fool seems right to him, but the wise listen to advice." Why would we not, as Christians, go to trained professional Christians who have studied how our minds work and can give biblical advice in context of an understanding of our mind and everything that's kind of going on, and they can bring that experience to light for us and help us to better understand a situation? Isn't that simply getting advice? And I think that we really have to remember this as Christians, that sometimes counseling can be incredibly life-giving. It doesn't mean that you're weak or anything like that. It doesn't mean that you as a Christian shouldn't do it. And, when you're talking to somebody who is wanting to help you grow in your faith, that person is there to help you. Another misconception is the idea that mental health issues are in some way a result of personal sin. This is similar to that story from the Bible where they were walking along and they saw a man born blind, and the disciples said, "Who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" And Jesus gives this answer that, neither he or his parents, but this was so that the glory of God could be revealed, and then he heals them. Now, there's a lot of theology happening there, and you have to kind of parse that out. But the point is that our assumption that, disease in some way comes from sin, personal sin, is not always the case. Now, of course, disease as a whole comes from original sin, right? That humanity is in rebellion to God and that therefore we live in a fallen world. And sometimes disease is a result of personal sin, right? Like if I do certain things with my body, it might lead to certain types of disease, but we shouldn't assume that with every type of disease. Again, we don't do it physically, so we needn't do it mentally. See, sometimes a mental health issue is just, we live in a fallen world, and a person that's experiencing something like that needs our love and our support and our care. So I hope it was helpful to reflect on 3 stigmas around mental health in the church. And I hope that, if you're somebody who's maybe heard these types of things and that was hurtful to you, I hope you hear from me that you are loved and cared for. And Christians, I hope that we feel a deep call to love and compassion and empathy around issues surrounding mental health. And I'm praying that we grow in this area and that we be people who come alongside people who are hurting and broken, and we lift them up and we walk with them. And we don't see them as lesser than, but we see them as, partners in the gospel. And really looking forward to this series of videos. I'm really looking forward to learning together, and know that I'm praying for you.